Hi, Anagh. Very excited to kind of learn from you today. We've already met once. So, guys, all of you watching, Anagh and I connected over LinkedIn. He's been reading some of my stuff. I've been reading some of his stuff. So, we thought we should kind of record this chat around whether it is the right time to build. And, with all the AI noise, like what is the pessimistic and the optimistic view? Wanted to welcome Anagh. He works at Accel in India. And the thing I was just telling is he is an all India rank one for very, very prestigious exam and been able to clear it. So it's been a while, but I just still wanted to say how amazing that is.
Sure. Thank you, Kalyani, for the kind introduction. Been really enjoying the stuff you have been putting out.
Thanks, Anagh. So, Anagh, the debate on Twitter right now is the two views whether so the frontier models keep changing their stuff all the time with every model. Anything you build on it is like on a shaky ground. In fact, like with the views that are coming in, Elon Musk himself tweeted that it wouldn't probably be the right time to build a AI startup. He said he agrees to that opinion basically. So I just wanted to, since you're in venture capital, your background is ML and AI, I wanted to know your view on whether it's a good time to build.
Absolutely. So it's rare that I would disagree with Musk because I follow most of his stuff and he's pretty forward looking. But on this one, have a different view. I think this is absolutely an amazing time to build a startup. And startup need not be. I work at a venture fund, but need not be the venture style startup by itself. Also, I think this is an amazing time to start few person companies, high margin services, the kind of companies as well, because the barriers to entry have gone down across the board in any kind of high value services. So that is an amazing time. This is an amazing time to build those, but also venture fundable startups, right? Startups which can go the long mile of hopefully listing on in the public markets one day. That's the kind of game we want to play, and this is a brilliant time to do that. I don't fully buy the logic of the ground shifting beneath under your feet if you're an application company using models, because maybe a little bit contra view to what I think about application companies, but the most promising application companies are not just like pure software vanilla apps using LLMs as ingredients. There's a ton of R&D and science that will go behind building defensible application companies, whether this is in um, context engineering or having personalization, or this is about post training and feature engineering across different types of use cases. There's a ton of, and most application builders, let's say, who have spent at least a year building for the personas, will realize that it's very easy to start something trivial where most of the work is being done by LLMs and put a wrapper on top. But to deliver that incremental value for which customers are actually going to pay significant margins, that needs a ton of R&D, and a lot of that is defensible. We can unwrap what I feel some of those defensibilities are, but net I feel this is an amazing time. And from the outside, the other thing I've been noticing, especially in the Bangalore ecosystem, is that many of the categories look taken, right? In a way that there are several super well funded companies out there. But I feel this is just the first wave of startups who just got their hands on the frontier model capabilities and put something together and they've started shipping. Does not mean that necessarily mean that they themselves will end up becoming the winners. I think it's very much possible that the future winners in several of application categories are not even born yet and will be born in the next couple of years. Because look at most application companies, it's many of them are actually not gone to the hard part yet. They are delivering some value which might be maybe 20% incremental to what you'd get off on top of Anthropic or OpenAI. But having that magic products which are defensible and which are delivering way more. So instead of what you would get in a $40 per month subscription, you're ready to pay $4,000 as a customer. I think those kind of companies are yet to be built.
Got it. Yeah, this is like refreshing because I am still in a wait and watch mode. You asked me if I'd start up something phase for as long as I can. One of the reason, and this is why I wanted to have this conversation with you, is this that even the granola founder, right? I was reading his interview on Every, and he said they only had 30-minute recording initially because the GPT context window was only 30 minutes.
Sure.
He said I could have worked on extending this 30 minutes to 60, but why? When I knew they would extend their context window as well, right? In this situation, no matter how much research I do, there is a black box. We have to agree to it. We don't know what's happening in the frontier labs. So I've taken the approach, at least personally, that let's say it's at the velocity of 80%. Even if it comes to 40%, then there is still some ground where you can strategize, you can execute, you can see, you can have a better feedback loop. If I build a product right now, I put it out in the market, before the feedback loops come, which means if one variable is validated, probably the model has gone through some change. And so now I'm working on iterating on top of whatever I'm building, let's say a health or whatever venture I'm building, I will still have to iterate, is what I'm trying to tell you with the new technology. Now there are two moving variables. So I don't know if my venture didn't work because the product market fit was missing or because it was on such a shaky ground that things were updating. So I'm still trying to deep dive and not kind of dismiss this conversation from this deeper view that people like me, and there are a few more that I'm talking to, they're saying we are not able to establish where this would stop or where we need to start building from. Whatever moat we build, and you've also written, I have a question for you on data as moat, maybe invisible tomorrow. There is anything that you think of, you just don't know in what direction the train, OpenAI train is moving, right? It could just destroy everything on its way. From that perspective, I'm saying, do you, if you don't see very clear distinguishing outcomes like health or defense, in a generic play where this is a consumer application for a very entertainment or many other things, do you think it's better to wait when the models get better, where the cost goes down?
I think more important than the timing of starting up is about how fungible your architecture can be and how ready it is to absorb new developments. And once I think it's hard to like it looks daunting when you look at it at a universal or a higher level view. But once we have figured a category, figured kind of the business model a little bit, or the workflow contours that you're trying to automate or augment, I think there are only like a finite number and few number of assumptions one has to make. If you're building a voice startup, right, then some of the assumptions we'll have to make is the latency of throughput, sorry, latency, and then throughput, and then just the quality in terms of having human emotion and so on. Now, these are well defined or popularly defined metrics, and one can assume certain curves here. For example, a simple assumption I have for inference costs is it's going to get 10x from here, whether it's 12 months, 18 months, maybe 24 months. It's a matter of time.
You're
But
saying it'll increase?
no, it's like the efficiency will increase, usually the cost will drop.
Yeah, I was also
Yeah.
wondering.
The efficiency will increase. Next is a safe assumption that I'm working with. X needs to model in a lot of other kind of hardware level developments, which is not easy to model. But 10x from here is safe assumption, right? And probably a consensus assumption. Then will voice models become more human like? I think that's a very safe assumption to have, and so on. But will voice models become adaptive, right? In a way that the foundation models come with a capability that once, if you're using my model and you can do 100, like once you've done 100 calls using my model, the next 100 that you do will be much better automatically because they will have learned online from 100 samples. I think this is a harder assumption to make, and probably a company can be built around it as an example.
Got it. Do you want to take an example of a company where you feel it's built on the model's constantly iterating by the frontier labs, but they've been able to create user stickiness or the customer love that now the user won't go to a chat GPT to kind of do or execute the same whatever use case?
Yeah, there are several. There's several very promising application companies coming up. I'll take one closer to home. August AI, which we recently announced our funding in. So it's basically an AI health companion, which seems a lot like ChatGPT once you first start interacting with it. And this is an increasing consumer behavior that because with an AI assistant like a Gemini or a ChatGPT, you can go much deeper, ask more personalized questions.
Mm.
Significant percentage of internet users are going to these assistants. But first few interaction might feel a lot similar, but it's over time the kind of memory that August is building. That is not something which is an architecture choice for OpenAI or Google. And that might be by design. It's not that they can't do it. It's just that it's not the focus. They have to be general purpose. So they can't take a memory architecture which will make it less useful for, let's say, essay writing, right? And make
Mm.
it more useful for health companionship. That is the verticalization opportunity that August AI saw. Longitudinal memory matters a lot because if I'm talking to a doctor, they should at least know what my significant vitals are, what my biomarkers are, what's my disease history, my allergens, and how do I interact with the medical system. It's not just about a medical history, but also knowing that what kind of intervention when gives me comfort, right? And so on. That is the role of a family doctor which
Right.
is becoming increasingly a lost art, unfortunately, and maybe comes back with AI. But this kind of building longitudinal memory is a significant technical differentiation, I think, and then that similar differentiation can be used to build different kinds of consumer applications.
So coming to the August AI question, then is it better? And I know that they are WhatsApp first right now,
Yeah.
and I tested it, and amazing work on the languages as well. It's inclusive from day one for the India story. But I also noticed that they decided to deliberately focus on WhatsApp. So is it, considering where we are, does it make sense to go where the users are versus building an app today?
Yeah, I feel in AI it's becoming less important what the UI is and more important what goes on under the hood. So the user expectation, and I'm seeing this not just in consumer applications but also in enterprise applications, because of ChatGPT's omnipresence, the user expectation has become that most of the work should get done in background, and
Mm.
I get to talk to software in a conversational interface just like I would talk to a human. So software now is getting designed more and more like a human
Mm.
and less like a dashboard with with logins and so on. So the closer you can be to that analogy, like if you're building a voice AI company and it's simply a phone number that I can just call up and get my job done, get my ticket rescheduled, or get a refund or whatever. It's more closely linked to where the future is. So I worry less about UI, and I think that's fungible in many of these applications, and lot more about what the conversational style is and what all processing is happening behind.
Yeah, in June, I think I wrote on Third Frontier about the death of apps, and that did not mean like death of actual apps. I meant
Yeah.
it'll become invisible design,
Yes.
because the point of AI is non-determinism. If
Yes.
that's the point, then you cannot have fixed buttons and flows.
Yes.
Like, why
Exactly.
would you put a fixed flow
That's
in?
antithetical to the concept of generative AI. Yeah.
I wrote it like in June, I think, when I was kind of thinking maybe we don't have six different apps, maybe we have one. And that one could,
Yes.
for all in the future be a WhatsApp, for example, and six different threads on health and
Yeah.
astrology and
Yeah.
games and whatever. What something's
Yes.
always going on in my WhatsApp,
Yeah.
basically. It
Yeah.
could be like
Exactly.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so the next question is, considering you're in venture capital where everything is always unpredictable, including the technology as well as the returns. And I read somewhere about your favorite theory of probability. Like, how do you apply those principles to navigate your work and the uncertainty around both the technology and the returns?
Yeah, so in venture, our business is relatively straightforward. That can we find companies which have the potential to become really large in the future, and can we play a significant role in helping basically the company reach that trajectory, right? If both of these conditions get met, we typically invest, and of course there's a probability element to it. Terms, again, these numbers you'll hear different numbers. It depends on who you talk to, but one North Star, I feel, for a great venture investor is just the probability of success from your first check. Typically, for great investors, is between 20 and 30%. Again, sometimes, again, this is very fungible. Sometimes it's maybe just 1%, but that one number was Databricks, right? You're still a great investor. But people who have been doing this over years repeatedly, they end up maybe 1 in 4, 1 in 5 shots becoming really big. So overall, that's something I, as a young investor, I keep in my mind as well. That I'm very okay to diversify risks, but the risk should not get into the gambling category. If I'm basically spraying and hoping something works, that it is still maybe could work out, but you're leaving a lot on uncertain things. So how do we figure out that we stay in this 20 to 30% risk zone? So there are several different factors that would affect an investment judgment. One thing at the early stages you would want to minimize the risk of is just the founder quality.
Mm,
Like, is it probably more than 80%, 90% probability that this founder is a generational founder, can learn very fast, and
mm,
build tasteful products and so on, right? That typically, that judgment, if we can get with high confidence. And then the second, third, fourth things are, is the product idea good enough? Is the market large enough? In AI, the one risk try to spend most time on try to calculate. Again, I never actually do these calculations, right? No good venture investor does this, but just something intuitively that you would feel, right? While you're on a yes no decision. But intuitively, the most amount of time I spend is on competition, because the markets are kind of getting obvious, pull is very high, there's no dearth of funding and so on, right? So for most good categories, the most important thing to look at is competition. How much delta do we really have? If someone had to replicate the exact same thing with exact same funding, how much time will they take? So on. Is there a real differentiation or not? And the path that we are taking, will that make it defensible over time? So little bit of, I would say, theoretical modeling on that part. And then over time, over the rounds, after the seed, series A, B, C, so on, what you typically want is to get high confidence answers on all of these. And with every round, you're kind of de-risking certain pieces and only small amount of risk is left. But ideally by series B, series C, only execution risk should be left.
Got it.
Right. So
Got it. But
you
that
start
all
with high risk, then over time you kind of decrease that in your head.
got it. And so I'm guessing you guys double down on your winners, cut loose your kind of losers very
Yeah,
quickly.
yeah, that's how the math kind of works. You typically enter with a small check, and the more confidence you develop over time, the more dollars you deploy.
Got it. And just one more follow-up question to this. Is there a mental model for you, especially on how much you would put percentage on founder versus the idea? Like if the idea is amazing, but the founder's not sure, you're not sure, versus founder's amazing, but the idea you're not sure. Like how do you do that 70, 30, 50, 50? Is there a percentage
I
there?
think it has to be founders first, and also it's kind of recursive, right? If you love the founder but don't like the idea at all, that would mean that either you think the founder is very smart, but for some reason he's not able to, or she's not able to look through what you are able to look through, or you are wrong, right?
Mhm.
So we have to spend a lot of time thinking whether the idea is actually good or not, and if objectively speaking the idea is not good, but the founder believes it's a great idea, that means your founder judgment is wrong. So, like, unless I fall in love with the founder, I would not even think about the idea.
The founder judgment part is more of a skill, more of an art, because you really have to just spend enough time with someone to also know, right? Like on paper, things can look great, and when you actually kind of invest, you realize like there were gaps there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I've been surprised both ways. I think typically what I see is it's you can get a sense of the grip of the market, learning agility, and so on by basically spending time with the founder. That's one. And the second is speaking with people that the founder has worked with in the past. That's
right.
also a very significant input. Doesn't work that well for very young founders, of course. So they
Hmm.
have to take more of a gut call. But certain aspects, right, that how the founder hires and leads a team. In many cases, we are backing first time founders who have not led teams earlier.
Hmm.
And this is a big unknown. And it only gets clear by series A, series B stage. So certain aspects we only learn over time. And sometimes you're positively surprised, sometimes you're negatively surprised. In those cases, we try to nudge the founder and help basically with more executive level hiring and so on.
Got it. And how do you differentiate between genuine innovation and feature based increments in the world of AI, where there is a very thin overlap and also between the two?
Sure. So I have a very simple framework for AI. Maybe I'll just start with that. It's a tactical framework. Is the product actually getting better with usage? This is very non-trivial to build. Most people claim that I'm doing this post training, I'm doing RL or like some sophisticated term, but when you look under the hood, it's not really changing. The maybe the only thing which is changing is changing some prompts. But if the product is the same quality wise over a 6 month period, then I feel it's not genuine innovation because it's mostly banking on the what you said earlier, right? Basically, the models get better, so I get better. The more customers I get, the more deployments I have, so some feature level improvements will happen. The
Right.
true magic of AI, and this I'll borrow from the previous generation of AI, non-generative AI, right? The true magic of AI is that it learns over time. And
Mm.
I feel any system that is learning over time, no matter which category you're going after, that still is in the camp of genuine innovation. And less than 1% startups that I meet are doing that.
Yeah, that's also because memory is not a solved problem yet, which comes to
Yeah.
my next
Memory,
question.
personalization, intelligent context engineering, online learning, or any post training techniques. Most times, post training, if you try it, ends up like overfitting or actually decreasing accuracy in many cases.
Mm.
So these are very unsolved problems, and no one is going to write a specific paper just on your problem to solve it, right? So you have to kind of solve it yourself. And that I feel is a technical differentiation between the best teams and the second best teams.
Yeah, fair. And coming back to memory, so there are two aspects here that I wanted your take on. One is the human AI interaction part, where if you remember too much as AI, it can also feel uncomfortable or creepy. At the same time, the real art or technology is also on what to remember about this user. So, for example, a granola would remember the same meeting done previously on those contexts. A health app would, but how do you, since you've also said that RL cannot be scaled, I mean, in terms of like creating as a service, Each company needs to have their own RL function. From that perspective, and what I just told you about the AI human interaction part, how do you see memory as kind of in different startups that you're working, and how does one really solve for memory?
I think this might generate some social media controversy, but I do feel we are taking memory wrong in the wrong light across the industry. I think we are trying to build text based generic memory and hoping that it magically works, but it will continue to have many challenges which exist even today with retrieval, even after so many years of maturity. The right way, in my opinion, to build memory is to go back to the basics of feature engineering, which is something, let's say, a TikTok or an Instagram have really nailed, right? They're not dumping everything about a customer and then using retrieval to do some online prediction, right? They are learning very specific attributes, and most of these attributes are latent attributes. You can't really code them yourself, but the system kind of figures it out. And those attributes or features are getting learned over time, depending on your behavior. So it's a very specific kind of a memory that a TikTok or an Instagram is building or a YouTube is building for you. And that is what gives the magical feeling when you log into Instagram, you kind of feel it knows me. I've heard this hundreds of times that people say, Meta is always listening to what I'm talking to in the dining room, but the memory is actually just so good that it can almost predict that what you would talk to each other over a dinner conversation. And when the next time you log in, you kind of feel that. And that is why these eerie moments crop up. But that's a brilliant example of a memory stack very well done. And I think anyone who wants to build memory based, longitudinal, context based systems today, think need to marry concepts from that world here and get your hands dirty with actual feature engineering, which will depend on a lot on how deep your understanding of that domain is. Instead of trying to build something very generic or just trying to toy around with all the parameters you would get with typical retrieval and embeddings.
And that's one of my problems with LLMs or LLM based apps. Like they are very reactive or retrospective. They're not proactive. If the memory feature was solved, which is what you're saying in Instagram, right? I feel Instagram. If I look for a Mokobara bag right now, my next session on the app will always have some proactive advertisement, something about the bag, right? The bag universe. That's not the same right now with, I mean, ChatGPT is trying with those feeds and whatever, but I don't think that that's how I want it to work. Like for me, if I've had a thread about Mokobara bag, I want it to ask, did you get the bag? Are you still looking for a bag?
Yeah.
Or knowing my travel dates are this, and then I've looked for a bag. It should ideally be able to say you have only 2 days remaining. Make sure you've got your bag. Example. It's a very small example, but this now extrapolated into personal life, relationships,
Exactly.
everything that people are talking to ChatGPT about when I read their prompts. There is so much room for proactiveness, but like because of the memory issue and I went to ChatGPT's memory folder. It kind of just remembers the highlights.
Yes.
More, I don't know a technical term for it, but you just basically remember chapter 3, this line, chapter 6, this line. And I'm saying, no, remember the summary of what my life looks like, and then contextually map it to wherever it's required. I think that shift
I'm
is.
sure there are trade-offs and there are a lot of because of the sheer scale, right? There are also many non-scalable ways to, like, if I were to actually semantically store everything about this, then I will not be able to offer maybe $20 per month kind of price point because there might be a lot of storage I'll have to do for you. But again, I'm just guessing. I don't know about the stack. Now, again, there are two views of the world. One is where ChatGPT solves all of these problems. Then we should all just put our money in OpenAI and go home, call it a day. But I'll not be able to justify the job that I'm in. By the way, I could still be wrong, but at least my view of the world is that there's immense scope for verticalization of ChatGPT, and precisely because some of the reasons we discussed right now.
Got it. The next bit is because you work in consumer application space. What is India's readiness on mass level? Don't see just the 1% kind of adoption on AI consumer apps.
I think this is an ongoing research for me. So maybe next time we chat, I'll have more nuances. But right now, at least in urban areas and in millennial and Gen Z's kind of segments, the typical like online buying kind of segments, ChatGPT is household and or Gemini or pick your assistant is household presence, omnipresent. People are asking recipes, travel recommendations, and I'll be surprised if the pattern of usage and ChatGPT recently released this statistics as well. But I'll be very surprised if the pattern of usage is significantly different from rest of the world. There might be certain nuances, but for all these reasons, people are trying, and that is also leading to this expectation setting, right? there's so much from a software that
Mm,
a human expects. And that has just changed the level at which it's impossible today to launch another app and ask it to do three things for you and still like monetize, right? Because they'll be like, I get this done via ChatGPT. Second is outside the typical online buying class in India, there is still quite a bit of adoption,
mm,
but it's not the same kind of usage or patterns. And the kind of problems that India has, it is also different, and the kind of interface needed is also different. And that is where I feel so many of these WhatsApp-based assistants or just phone-based assistants will come in. I am sure, people are talking to voice AI insurance sellers all the time, but then without even realizing.
mm.
So there are non-obvious ways in which AI is penetrating society in India, and monetizable new interface for them. A hero product is yet to emerge.
Yeah, and actually, when I wrote the paper, it almost my data set almost was 85% daily active users, which is higher than the worldwide chat GPT usage. And the next research I want to do, depending on the time constraint, but what is the per dollar investment households are making towards AI? So mine's reached $100 now, like Claude plus Perplexity, five things, Canva, Gamma, Milake, it's coming to $100 per month.
Yeah.
Riverside.
Yeah.
Riverside also I use for AI
Yeah.
cropping and stuff. I want to know per household wise, like how many people have started paying for AI also. Like that would be a very good
That
indicator.
is interesting. That is interesting research. Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
do it next year, probably Jan or Feb.
Okay.
I'll start working on
Okay.
it.
If there's a way I can contribute to it, then let me know. I think that
Yeah,
will be very
we'll meet and I'll tell you my plan. I want to do
okay.
it in a very different way. I don't want to go and ask people how much you're
Sure.
spending because then there is this performance now. They will want to say, okay, we take the $20. Some people would not want to say they're using the free for perception
Yeah.
management. So it has to be done a bit more subtly where you get the insights, but you've not
Yeah.
made you more uncomfortable. So it has to. I'm planning how to go about it. We posted. Voice AI, what do you think? Like, I have never yet met people who are talking to ChatGPT. I still see people typing it out more. But I also know customer service insurance has started adopting voice for customer agents. Relationship wise, I'm unsure. Like, you and your relationship with ChatGPT, I don't know if it's gone to voice yet or it's a very small group.
I see for kids, voice is working out very well. Across the board, I'm hearing they're speaking with voice agents. And also, tier two, tier three India, or maybe most of our circles are very used to text, and we can get a lot more done with actually, you can actually get a lot more done with text, right? Because you can read faster than you can listen. But for a variety of use cases and typical consumer behavior in tier two and beyond, I think voice is a more natural interface. And this we see with our launches. Some of our consumer AI companies, they start with text launches, but they start hitting a roadblock in tier two and beyond unless they introduce the voice input.
But the text length has to go shorter in voice because see,
Yes.
when I get an answer, I scan through and I know if it's hallucinated to
Yeah.
kind of double down on my
Yeah.
prompt. But with voice, I'll have to patiently wait for it for four
Exactly.
minutes.
Yeah. The bits per second actually that you consume is it's orders of magnitude higher when you
Yeah.
read.
Yeah. So I think that's why none of my circle where I
Yeah.
talk for research and
Yeah.
all have still spoken to
Same.
chat.
Yeah. Exactly.
Got it. Okay, let's come to education. Considering your IIT prep and everything, if you were in today's era, how would AI plus and minus both? I want to know both sides. Would have made it better or worse for you?
I think it would have definitely made learning better and more enjoyable because adaptive learning, which is or personalized learning, depends on how you call it, is kind of the holy grail of education, and this has been proven over and over again. One of my favorite studies is Benjamin Bloom's study, which I'm sure you have gone through from is that students who actually get one-on-one mentorship or tutorship perform two standard deviations better over an extended period of time versus students who learn in a classroom setting. And in fact, we see this like anyone who can afford personal education does go for personal education. Even in our scriptures, we know that all the famous characters in our scriptures had a guru, right? And that all the characters had a one-on-one, very deep relationship with the guru, right? So it's kind of proven multiple times over centuries that a one-on-one education leads to better outcomes for everybody. But economics compel you to go to a classroom kind of setting, which is trying to one size fits all or one size fits few. One on one starts working when the economics work, which is the tutor has to be cheap. The tutor becomes cheap if it's software, which is AI. And given this fundamental concept, I'm a huge long term believer of AI in education. In fact, I feel is a more important application of AI than just AI for customer support or AI for telesales and all of that. Maybe there's faster time to value, more revenue to be made. So we are seeing a lot of startups like that. But over time, we'll see lifelong learning companions, which are basically personalized to every person. The obvious ones are like for preparing for IIT, right, or preparing for UPSC, and we have made investments here. But over time, the non-obvious ones will start coming. Like, let's say you as a researcher, an independent research, how do you get better over time? And how do you distill the learning of all the other independent researchers who have gone down this path
Hmm.
for you to like know, okay, what should be my 3 month plan, 6 month plan, so on.
Yeah.
I think there's probably no Coursera course online
Yeah,
which you
yeah, and
can refer to, but
I've
there
said
can
it
be
on
an AI tutor personalized to you.
yeah, and I've said it on record. Research is an extremely lonely journey. Even if you're doing it through an institution or otherwise, there is no ecosystem for us to get feedback on a constant. We get feedback only after the paper's done.
Yeah.
In between, I hear you. I think you have funded a research company also. We'll kind of double
Yes.
down on that later. But I get it. And what did you use for your educational side, learning side of software?
So, I am a big believer of apprenticeship. So most of my learning is coming from just sitting with my seniors in and when they take meetings. But I would love to have an AI tutor for venture capital who I can run across thoughts with. GPT just does not a Gemini. It just doesn't work for my use case. Because it gives a very generic. Okay, India is growing and you can do capex will be growing here, so looks like a great investment. The
Yeah.
moment I tell them no, but it has this obvious working capital challenge, let's say, then it will come back say you are right. So
Yeah.
it's not the ideal tutor.
Yeah, mine is also a makeshift between Notebook LLM and Claude. So Notebook LLM for like factually parsing papers and understanding what it means, and then Claude for helping me with critical thinking. But it's still I have to do a jugaad, and they
Yeah,
don't talk to each other, right? Unfortunately, none of these LLMs are interoperable. I
yeah,
wish they were. Like, just if I feel Claude is better for this answer, just let me ask Claude, like, why do, and then I'm doing 20. I have a Perplexity Pro, I have a Claude Pro, but it's not needed. You just kind of,
yeah.
but I hope one day a UPI moment for LLMs comes because it does make things easier for me. I'm
Yeah,
kind of
there are some companies which started with this hypothesis.
no, but I'll tell you the problem. I tried those T3
Uh,
chat and all. I've tried these. They use APIs, so the API outcome is very different from the actual.
Okay.
And then there's no memory. There's memory problem again. They're not being able to.
Fair.
So then you need a T3 plus a mem or whatever the company that's solving the memories in LLM. Like, so again, it's a jugaad. That's what I'm saying. So I can't do my research or any quality output if the interface that's making this interoperable is doing API for latency
Yeah,
reasons.
yeah, yeah. Then it's not the same. Okay, got
And
it.
we, so anyway, okay, so I had one personal question for you. Since you are All India rank first, I was reading a study where all 20 rankers in India and across last 10 years or 20 years, in fact, have gone to US. They are in Meta, they are in Google. Some of them are really running very well established startups in US. What made you stay back in India, or are you still planning?
No, I'm not planning to leave anytime soon. I stayed back in India because I felt at that time when I graduated that the quality of work that we are doing here started converging with the quality of work that was happening in the Bay Area or other parts of US. And I interned at Goldman. Goldman was my first job as well. And I just saw that the team that I was going to work in was doing pretty much the same work, or in some cases, higher impact work in R&D compared to other teams globally. So it was a very tactical point wise kind of a thing that I looked at. Okay, I get to be in India and do the same work. I think people before my generation didn't have that luxury because a lot of the jobs were like kind of back office. But at the time when I was graduating, it seemed like it has converged, and I wanted to be in India for personal reasons. So I just stayed there, and then my journey into VCs is very accidental. It was
So yeah,
actually
you should tell that story.
Sure. Yeah, I was actually looking to join after Goldman. I was looking to join some company as a CTO or a founding engineer. But then someone told me talk to a VC. They'll tell you how to go about finding your co-founder or the right company to join. I was like, what's a VC?
If you told me this, I was
Yeah,
laughing.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, so someone told me about them and I spoke to a few, applied in one of them because I felt like this is the fastest way to learn and then I can figure out which startup to join. Then I started enjoying it a lot. In VC in particular, so now there's a second reason to continue in India because in VC is a very compounding business and the networks you build, the insights you develop, and just the ecosystem that you're in, the more time you spend, the better you keep getting at it. Like, and many times the progress is not visible, but I see the progress in myself for sure. And now if I end up leaving, it will be for a fresh start, right? And leaving all the compounding on the table. So the only reason to leave will be if I start feeling that there's not much to do in the venture business in India. And there might not be very interesting companies, but I think we are far from that. I feel some very large, very unique companies are to be built from this part of the world. And I'm fortunate to be practicing on this craft for several years. So fortunate to be in one of those rooms when these decisions will be made. I'm
Yeah.
likely to be in those rooms. So
Yeah.
this seems like a practical decision, business decision, and this.
Yeah. Plus, I feel just to add a perspective there, your unique intersection in ML and your understanding of engineering and the venture capital, it's rare. You know, like I've met so many. I was the other day I was meeting a VP at a very good venture fund, and he was asking me like what's happening with AI. But obviously, he's not in the AI space. But I'm still saying it's not a given that venture capitalists know about AI or engineering or really good decision. This helps, right? You kind of are the missing puzzle to get a holistic picture on whether it's a genuine innovation versus a feature incremental. Otherwise, you'd end up funding a wrong business, getting excited about the hype.
Yeah, I think so. First of all, thanks for being so kind. Yeah, I think you're generous in that description. It has both pieces to it because I come from a technology native background and most of my time outside work actually also goes in following research papers and technology. So I come with that perspective. Sometimes you can fall too much in love with technology and miss the business piece as well.
Hmm.
So end up funding a wrong business from that point of view. But I'll take the risk any day over funding mediocre technology, which is looking good. So I continue to be very technology focused. And I think some of these will break out just because fundamentally these are very solid, differentiated tech and stacks that these companies are building.
What's your situation or view on the AI talent in India? People are saying there are not enough people. Cumulatively, we may have 1,000 or 2,000 really good quality AI engineers in
Yeah,
India.
I think the AI talent is becoming a misnomer because what is AI talent? Talent
Yeah.
which can work with LLMs, right? And these are just actually curious people who have spent a lot of time interacting with LLMs and who have started understanding how foundation models work. They don't necessarily need to construct these models from scratch, right? So there are amazing companies, including in the Valley, where AI scientists per se, the classic PhDs who have done like 5 years in post training and then coming, a very small part of real product building and in a very small number of companies is coming from that piece. And like that piece is very valuable, by the way. That's why we are seeing Meta building the super intelligence labs and all the things going on there. But there's so much other value that can be created by just
Hmm.
first principles based, curious engineers. That is real AI talent. And numbers wise, there's just a lot of people here who fit the bill. But it's about unlocking the ambition, right? And a lot of times when I think the founder complains that there's no AI talent, the second question I ask is, okay, what do you ask your AI engineers to do on a daily basis? So many times I hear that they are trying to reduce the latency and throughput and increase the throughput we are getting from some of our DeepSeek models, for example, right? Then I'm like, is this the best place to like just spend that resource? Because you can actually use Simply Smart is one of our portfolios. Use Simply Smart or Fireworks or Together or one of these specialized players out there to just take care of your inference, and then these people can focus on evals, for example, which really matter. Right. And then you give them the liberty to make some mistakes, give 3, 6 months for them to come up with answers. Right. So it's about unlocking ambition, allocating resources the right way. But the good news with AI is that you don't need to be a PhD to get a lot done with AI. And that talent is there in India. And we have to just guide or
Hmm.
leave them free for it. For example, just don't give them wrong things to work on, wrong priorities, and we'll start seeing some beautiful results. So I do think the talent is there, but the thinking and ambition gap is real.
Yeah, I think the 2 points there is like one, nurturing that talent, and second, giving them some free space to follow up on
Exactly.
what's happening in the valley. They give so much, like 12 hours of just building, that they have no creative room to explore. AI is a
Yes.
lot of creativity.
Yes.
A lot of people don't know this. They think it's just like fine tuning this, but everything, if you break down those components, you need research and creativity. And if you don't leave your engineers with that time, then you're obviously kind of
Yeah.
right.
And just not just engineers, I feel you can get a lot more done from our designers and product managers and growth people and everyone across the board. Because now AI, now software has become conversational, right? So just the power is so high, just that we don't realize AI is all powerful in for a lot of cases. Just that you're not demanding it or giving the right context, making it work the right way. And then everyone in your team is still building companies the same way companies used to get built 3 years back.
Mm.
And then complaining about talent is probably not the right thing to
Yeah,
do.
but I was trying to be a little more specific also. Agree to you, by the way. What is AI engineering, right? It's like these 5 components that can be learned and iterated. Oh, got it. But here the RL and the fine tuning part of it, like that's the part I feel not everyone can do. Is it better to outsource it? Then this is the conversation we were having in Mara as well. Like, should people outsource their RL?
Yeah, think it's a nuanced question. I don't have a generic take on that. You can outsource, it's about outsourcing core piece of technology, right? You can outsource for a bit, but you can't run a company based on outsourced technology or like run a differentiated company for long, right? So it's a good idea to take mentorship wherever needed, but at some point you have to bring that in house. Outside of that, you from a consulting company or from outsourced shop, you can only get certain like time limited kind of outcomes. This comment is beyond RL. In previous cycles also, whenever I've seen tech companies outsourcing key pieces of tech, it has not ended that well.
Got it. Like it would be equivalent of Swiggy outsourcing it to a dev shop, their whole backend, for example.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This is so core. I'm not sure if enough emphasis is placed on it. I feel every AI application company is actually an evals company, and every good evals company at some point becomes an RL company. So this is just so core to be building a good application that it's very hard to outsource.
Yeah, actually, my first interview, like this conversation was with Sashank, who runs Novium AI. And I told him this, that every company is a eval company, and he had a very interesting view. I'll share it with you. But yeah, he runs evals and observability. He was the founder of API.market. So very
Okay.
interesting views there also. Okay, anyway, so one personal prediction that you have in 2 to 3 years on consumer applications that no one sees coming right now, just like how no one saw ChatGPT coming. If you were in 2021, no new example. So what is that looking like for you?
Okay, wow. I don't know if no one is looking at it. I am sure some people are looking at thinking about it, but I do feel there's a new LinkedIn somewhere getting built as we speak. I think this is one application which captures a very small sliver of what a career professional has achieved or done over time, which is just some roles and some brief descriptions. But I think we are moving towards a world where, depending on how much you want to share, we can have more detailed, nuanced profiles of every professional. And also in a post AI world when specific skill sets start mattering less and less and more of the human sides of employees start coming up, there'll be different ways to evaluate and recruit people, right? And just therefore how people should be putting up their online profile, that might change. So I feel, whether I don't know if it's 2 years, but definitely a few years, a new kind of a LinkedIn will emerge. And hopefully we'll get a new feed as well. And we don't have to, every social media ends up having the similar kind of feed at some point. But
Hmm.
I think you know what I'm talking about, the kind of feed we see on LinkedIn. Hopefully that will not have that the first few years. So I do feel a new LinkedIn is on the way, which will be AI native.
Yeah, and I sometimes wonder what TikTok and Instagram, bad and good either ways, but have been able to do with connections, right? You always end up watching a video of a creator you didn't know of and discover. Discovery part on LinkedIn is a little bit more slower, and sometimes you just struggle to kind of feel like the right people are getting to know you, or you're getting to know the right people beyond the career professional part. I'm saying the serendipity part of it, if someone can innovate and do.
Exactly. Yeah. It happens way better on X these days or even
I was just
Instagram.
going to say Twitter, yeah, Twitter X. They do the serendipity part a lot more. There's a social signal around that everyone trusts everyone as a base level, and if someone does screw up, then you kind of demote them. Given versus in LinkedIn, you have to first establish that you should trust me
Yeah.
with the content you write and everything. Like it's
Yeah.
first, I will have to prove myself, and then you can give me work On Twitter, it's more like, this is a tweet. I loved your tweet. I'll work with you.
Yeah.
That
The
part
missing
is,
piece in Twitter is that like it's like it's good for recruitment. It's mentioned more like focus on recruitment because LinkedIn the main purpose is recruitment, right? Or
yeah.
B2B sales in some cases.
Yeah.
If multi-dimensional profiles with AI can be built of people and these are evolving over time as well, that might be a hook, and that ends up, of course, challenging LinkedIn, but also Twitter at some point if it has to.
Yeah. Happenstance is solving the discovery problem of LinkedIn. So even discovery is like challenging. So happenstance runs like a query on the entire network of yours. You can say, okay, all VCs in Bangalore and happenstance will pull out the
Yeah,
list.
yeah. Again, it only has the input which a LinkedIn or something will have.
Of LinkedIn will have that ghost of the past kind of situation. But anyway, yeah, that was interesting. Is there anything for me?
Oh yeah, I would love to know that when you look at AI applications from your lens, are there certain ideas you are more excited about for next year than this year? Or other way to put this question would be that your 2026 predictions for applications, given the research you have done so far, and not just coding, customer support, we have which already saw progress. Which for which applications will grow very fast next year?
Yeah, so I have a very similar thought process like you, that the real fun stuff, fun use of AI, anything that's fun will get adopted, obviously. ChatGPT was fun. This is why it got adopted. That fun stuff has not come out yet. Yet we are trying to solve meaningful problems, important problems, problems that people will pay for, all of this. That one thing that is fun and people will like, oh yeah, I'll give $100 for this. That is not, in my view, it has not come yet. And the second piece is entertainment, which I'm watching very closely. A lot of free time between all the LLMs generating 6 hours of code and everything. But entertainment is still very, here are the 15 movies. Even if they are algorithm based, like still those 15 that I watch will also be on your, the top 10 Netflix and all. The thing that it looks very utopian, but like, hey, I want to know the alternative versions of Mahabharata. Create 6 episodes on the alternative endings of Mahabharata. Because the cost of creating is going down so much, at some point, can this be entertainment? Can astrology videos, astrology is entertainment in India, right? Mothers in the evening are just scrolling through astrology videos and sending me. I'm like, Mom, don't send me this. But like, this is entertainment for them. So like astrology videos, stories from our Hindu, cultures, all of this, very underrated yet. But can someone do it? And this, Seekho also did well because, of course, it's educational. I'm not denying it, but they use the element of the entertainment, the 20-second, the 60-second that you've got hooked. So I think entertainment. And having said this, I'm still telling you what you're telling me, that the real stuff has not come out yet. We'll see something really crazy in 2026, and we'll be like, yeah, this. Like we'd probably circle back our video and say this.
Yeah, yeah, it's bang on. I think it's been a while since we got a fun piece of technology, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And like I'm not on Instagram. Like I'm very inactive. X maybe I'm like hardly active because it's not exciting or fun for me. It's very predictable.
Yeah.
Substack is also good for writing, but again, predictable. That one thing that you don't know what happens, and everyone's a beginner again. If you do that, no, then I think I'll put my money on.
Awesome. To fun 2026. Thanks. I had a great time chatting with you.
Thank you so much. And really appreciate your time on this.